Welcome back to The Person Everyone Needs. I am your host, Webb Hoggard. Today, we're going to be talking about Star Wars. Okay, let me tell you why I got here. So my producer and editor, Mr. Craig, last week did a phenomenal job of playing the tune to A Mighty Fortress Is Our God. And as he did that, I geeked out, got so excited. And I was like, what if we did some other musical things? And so we started talking about what those could be. And I could just hear perfectly the tune that Craig was playing there, or the Star Wars theme, Imperial March, actually. It's the Darth Vader theme. And so then the question was, well, what in the world could I talk about? And it flew out of me immediately exactly what I wanted to talk to you about today. So if you don't know much about Star Wars, you're fine. It's going to be okay. I'm not going to talk that much actually about the movies. However, it's phenomenal, and you should enjoy it, and it's the greatest thing that has ever... Anyway, you need to go check it out. I am a big fan of The Mandalorian, which is the newer TV shows based on it or whatever. Okay, that's all the Star Wars stuff. If you were to watch, if you're a geek and have been enjoying watching Star Wars and stuff like that, what you will recognize is that the entire system of at least the protagonist, antagonist, the whole system is based on leaders and mentees, mentors and mentees. The whole story line is about those who change loyalties, those who have been impacted by other generations, those who've been encouraged, and those who decide to stay on the light side or the dark side. And so today, what I want to talk to you today about is the dark side of mentoring. The dark side of mentoring. So I'll tell you just as quickly as I can. We open up in episode 1 with a man by the name of Qui-Gon Jinn, who is mentoring a new Jedi named Obi-Wan Kenobi. And if you don't ever watch it, this is fine. I'll just go ahead and let you know. Obi-Wan Kenobi is the coolest guy in the whole thing. All right, so he's like the guy. But you see him in this relationship with Qui-Gon. But by the end of that movie, Qui-Gon is passed, and now Obi-Wan has to mentor his own young apprentice, and that ends up becoming Darth Vader. So it's this horrible thing of the greatest Jedi that you could imagine, that's Obi-Wan Kenobi, is training up this incredibly special, this incredibly powerful Jedi that would eventually turn coat. He is overwhelmed in fear and anger. He turns coat and ends up siding with what would become the Emperor, which is the galactic, cosmic worst thing ever. If there's a picture of the devil in any of these types of sci-fi movies, it's the Emperor. And the turncoat Vader works alongside of the Emperor, destroying and breaking all the galaxies, all the empires. And it's this heartbreaking story. And then you get into the ones that come from the 70s and 80s. And the Vader is the tight fist that continuously breaks the back of anybody who tries to rebel and create freedom for the Empire again. Until the last episode, when you get to episode 6, Vader recognizes that the Emperor is trying to kill his own son. And Vader turns and ends up destroying the Emperor. But in that doing, Vader also dies, but there is this celebration in the end of it. There's freedom being given back to the galaxy. And if you're one of those that don't really care about the newer ones, then don't listen to this or whatever. But then as we get to the last 3, which Disney has done, and they were by far the worst of the movies. If you like them, God bless you. Luke Skywalker, who is the one who is Darth Vader's son, who helped Vader be redeemed at the end of 6, he becomes also now a leader, where he is talking to Yoda, who's this little thing. Okay, I know I told you I wasn't going to tell you the whole story, but here the whole point is that the whole story is based on leadership, is mentoring mentees, people that are trying to get better and be sharper and that kind of thing. And the heartbreak in the whole story is it's called the Skywalker Saga because of Anakin Skywalker turning against Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it's this really heartbreaking thing to watch all of this carnage take place because of one person's decision to be disloyal to his friend. So what does that got to do with you today? Hey, I'm only halfway into this thing and I'm done talking about Star Wars. I just want to tell you that, listen, the most fulfilling thing you'll ever have in your life is mentoring somebody and seeing them be built up and encouraged and being better than they ever could have been without you. It's a blessing. It is so good to see your children that way, to see your children breaking new ground, that stuff that you had to work through, stuff that you had to fix and all that kind of stuff, but now that they're able to go into a better direction and build from there. And it's just it's an incredible thing to be able to influence another person's life and see some of that come to pass as a positive. It is also the area of the greatest heartbreak, because when you do give yourself to somebody, when you do all that you can to encourage them, build them up, and then they turn, there's this incredible scene at the end of Episode 3 of Star Wars where Obi-Wan Kenobi is giving it all, everything he possibly can. He's screaming, begging to get Anakin Skywalker to turn back. He's already failed. He's already murdered many people, and he screams, "You were my brother." There's this I've never been closer to anyone. How could you let this happen? Let's fix this thing. And they end up fighting each other, and it's just one of those really tough things to watch in a movie, because you know how deep this must have really felt for them. And maybe you know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe there's somebody that you've been trying to help, and they turned on you. Maybe there were people that you gave information to, and they took that information to the very place that they knew better. They knew they shouldn't take the information to that next place. That's exactly where they did it. Maybe you've been betrayed. Maybe you've had a mentor who's betrayed you. Maybe you had somebody that you thought you could listen to, a parent that you had, and they weren't a safe person. So maybe all this mentoring ideas, it's really hard to even listen to. I think about Jonathan and David, which is largely what I talk about. And I wanted to say this at the beginning of the podcast, but I got excited about Star Wars, I guess. Jonathan is taking care of David. There's this part of the story where David tells Jonathan, "Hey, your dad is trying to kill me." And Jonathan's like, you know not. You're blowing this way out of proportion. But instead of just leaving his friend and saying you're a liar, and instead of just taking his dad's side and saying, and moving on, or just saying that you must be right, let me go for it, he said, let me devise a test. So he went to his father and he said, "Hey, I let David take off a couple of days." And his dad lost his mind. He was just so angry, called him terrible names, and said, "Don't you know that he's going to take your throne, and you're so stupid, you're going to let him do it?" He just loses it on him. And it helped Jonathan recognize that, yes, my dad is going to try to kill this man. So he told David he needed to go. And so what this mentor did in this moment, the hardest thing you could imagine as a mentor, is he told David he had to run. He had to leave, that he wouldn't see him again. He wouldn't see his friend anymore. He wouldn't be able to continue training him, that he needed to go on the run. And David does that. David runs all the way to their enemies, to the Philistines, and he tries to get a place to stay there, and they get really excited that they're going to conquer this great warrior. And he's in a tight spot there, so he ends up acting insane in order to get free, and then he leaves there and he creates himself a little place at Ziklag. The point I'm trying to make, though, is that mentor-mentee relationship, basically, there's only one other story where they even see each other after that, so it's over at that point. And I can't imagine how many days Jonathan was sitting in camp with his father and thinking about, man, I hope I taught David everything he needed to know. I hope I encouraged him to keep his... And there was apparently a moment where he said, I didn't do enough, so he sneaks away from his dad's camp to go to David, and he tells him to strengthen his hand in the Lord, because God is going to go with him. And it's a huge moment that I mean, it's impacting my life now 3,000 years later. I'm reminding myself again that I can't tell people to trust me. I tell people, trust the Lord. Put your trust in the Lord. And that's what Jonathan does. What an incredible mentor he is in that moment. Then you look, and David honors Jonathan's relationship by honoring, Mephibosheth, who is Jonathan's son. But who does David train up? I know Solomon takes over after him, but even all of his other sons, they were just a mixed bag of craziness. who else does he invest his time with to build up and to make ready for the next generation? There must have been some conversations that Solomon had with David, because Solomon ends up being like this brilliant orator and proverb maker. But, David doesn't seem to have the same level of mentoring relationship that he got to receive through Jonathan. I understand that the biggest fear in mentoring somebody is, what if they turn coat? What if they take your information and break you? What if they betray you? I understand, but that's a risk that's worth taking, because the greatest joy in your life is when you get to see the influence that you have had on somebody being a strong change for them. So what do we do if we're just afraid to try to make a difference? What do we do if we're so afraid that the Darth Vader may come out of our relationship that we refuse to try to train up Anakin Skywalker? I think the adventure of your life gets missed as well. These movies were basically, constantly going back to the story of Obi-Wan Kenobi and all these incredible adventures they had. There's a cartoon based on it with several seasons. I think it's called The Clone Wars. It was Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker having all these adventures together. Just because it ends in a terrible situation, and just because they had a lot of hard times together, doesn't mean it's not worth the investment. You think about Jesus hanging on the cross, and the last time he saw Peter was Peter denying him 3 times. You're talking about somebody who's invested, who mentored, who took the time to help him, who blessed him, who even told him, "You're going to deny me." And he's like, "No way, I definitely won't." So not only was the last time a betrayal, but the time before that was a lie. Jesus still mentored. And then after he resurrected, he goes straight to Peter and he restores him. "Peter, do you love me? Feed my sheep." Peter's restoration there is a powerful thing, because just a few weeks later, he will be preaching in Jerusalem and 3,000 will get saved. Peter becomes the first person to go to a Roman and preaches, and the whole house gets saved because of that redemptive blessing of the great mentor. Who are you working with today? Don't give up, and don't be afraid just because some bad might come of it. Some bad might come of it. But the greatest joys of your life will be seeing the people that you help building their life and getting better. It's worth the risk. Even if a few Darth Vaders come out of it, it's worth the risk to be a mentor, to help somebody else get a little bit better to where you are now. Happy Star Wars Day. I don't know. This is the middle of November, so that doesn't even make sense. But I do know that what is on my heart often in this thing is identity, destiny, and legacy. And you'll never have a legacy if you don't take the time to help somebody else. Because people who help others, that's a person that everyone needs.